Am I the asshole? For telling a bridesmaid she can't bring her dog to the bachelorette party? I am the maid of honor for my sister's wedding. We're planning a bachelorette weekend in Vegas since my sister has never been before and has always wanted to go. We plan to be out of the hotel as much as possible, making the most of our trip. One of the bridesmaids recently asked in the group chat about accommodations for her dog, a 50-pound Australian Shepherd. I was wanted to bring her dog. The bridesmaid said the dog was an ESA emotional support animal and that she likes to have her dog there on planes. We live on the East Coast and will be flying to Vegas. We literally flew to Istanbul together not 6 months ago without this dog and there was no issue whatsoever. And when we get to Vegas, does she plan on her dog all cooped up in her crate the entire time? The hotel we're booking does have dog-friendly rooms, but doesn't allow pets to roam freely around the hotel room unsupervised. The dog would have to stay in that crate for God knows how long each day. That can't be great for the dog. On top of that, our other younger sister coming on the trip is very allergic to dogs. We don't have the money to just let this one bridesmaid book her own room for just herself and the dog to prevent my younger sister having an allergic reaction. Unless this bridesmaid was willing to pay for a room herself, I told her she couldn't bring her dog on this trip. I thought that was going to be the end of it, since this was definitely reasonable on my part in my opinion, but this bridesmaid is now being super pissy with me and saying how it's so wrong and horrible of me not to let her bring her ESA. Bearing in mind she's been absolutely fine without the dog in the past on much longer flights. Bearing in mind I even told her she could bring the dog if she was able to pay for a room of her own so that my sister doesn't have a reaction. Reddit, please just put this one to bed. Am I the asshole here? Not the asshole. Bearing in mind I even told her she could bring the dog if she was able to pay for a room of her own so that my sister doesn't have a reaction. So she's being cheap and considering locking up her pup in a small cage, not taking allergies into account? She sounds like a pretty self-centered individual. You're doing the pup a favor. Not the asshole. She can pay for her own room if she wants. Your sister is allergic. You are not required to accommodate her ESA in any other way. That's leaving aside all issues about how much she might actually need the dog, and the quality of life for the poor dog trapped in a crate in a hotel room in Vegas. Not the asshole. All of your logic is exactly spot on. If she feels so adamant, then she can come up with her own accommodations. Otherwise the dog has no place at a Vegas bachelorette party. Not the asshole. Bearing in mind I even told her she could bring the dog if she was able to pay for a room of her own so that my sister doesn't have a reaction. We literally flew to Istanbul together not 6 months ago without this dog and there was no issue whatsoever. So, she wants her dog with her. Which is questionable how much she needs. And the rest of you are expected to help cover the costs, or deal with allergies? Not the asshole. She is wanting to bring her pet so she can foot full cost on that herself. It is not a proper service animal, e.g. guide dog, so it does not need to be there at all. Your younger sister's legitimate allergy trumps taking a pet. Not the asshole. I think a lot of people seem to think their ESAs have the same rights as service animals. They do not. The only thing an ESA is allowed to do is be with you in an apartment that otherwise doesn't allow your pet, and allows you to waive a pet deposit. That's it. ESAs aren't allowed in airplane cabins anymore. I had 2 ESAs and would never have even thought to bring them places they weren't welcome. Info: what is her plan for the dog's care in Vegas? What is she asking you for? There is no room in a Vegas hotel room for a 50-pound dog. Not the asshole. Have you also considered that she is going to want to bring the dog to the wedding? Not the asshole. She wants to bring her pet. It's not welcome. Not the asshole. The bridesmaid is making a power move, since by your first-hand experience, she travels without her dog at other times. Red flag for actual wedding day, but honestly, this may be something on which you defer to your sister, the bride. I'm assuming the bridesmaid is more your sister's friend than she is yours. Info: does she even have the documentation to fly with this dog? Airlines have been really cracking down on ESAs due to the influx of people buying some bogus certificate online and calling their pets an ESA to try and circumvent pet policies. ETA not the arsehole either way, I'm just genuinely curious how this is going to work. Like the girl is living in Delulu land. Not the arsehole, ESAs are pets, and you have no obligation to accommodate her pet, and neither does the airline. Besides that, someone in the party has a serious medical problem with dogs, and accommodating her pet could have serious consequences for your sister. Be sure to let the airline know about the allergy so someone else doesn't cause a reaction. Is the person wanting to bring a 50-pound dog willing to buy an extra seat on the plane or have the pet in luggage for a long flight? I doubt she is considering what is best for the dog. ESAs aren't even allowed on airplanes anymore. The Air Carrier Access Act was amended to exclude them in January 2021. Following that ruling, every U.S. domestic carrier updated their policies to exclude ESAs. If she wants to bring a dog and get her own room, of course she should pay for it. Why would anyone else be expected to contribute to that? Not the arsehole. Info: this does not change my judgment. Are you sure the hotel allows for dogs that large? I travel frequently with my dog who is just under 4 pounds. Everywhere I've ever stayed, the pet usually has to be under 20-25 pounds, and yes, they have to be confined in some way. Not the arsehole. I do travel with my dog, but only to relaxing places where she can get lots of walks and playtime in. I'd never bring her to a wild weekend in Vegas. Info: not that this actually matters because you are still not the arsehole, but how does she expect the dog to fly with her? Wouldn't a dog that size have to be placed in cargo? It's my understanding that ESAs are no longer accepted in most places because people abused it. Not the arsehole. It may legitimately be her ESA, but if she loved the dog and cared about its happiness, she would not bring it to Las Vegas, to be penned up for hours on end in a hotel room. If she insists, then she needs to book her own accommodations and make sure that none of the rest of the bridal party can be held liable for the damage her unhappy dog will wreak upon the hotel room. Not the arsehole. For what it's worth, you don't want to go with the argument that she didn't need the dog on the earlier trip, because a trip out of the country would have probably required quarantine, and it would have made no sense to take an ESA. She was going to be separated from the whole time anyway. You've got conflicting needs, so you're accommodating the person with the allergy and the sister of the bride, who outranks the bridesmaid in terms of priority. Not the arsehole. As someone who has taken their dog to Vegas because we were road tripping and it was on the way. It's a horrible place for a dog because there is literally no grass. Let me tell you, I had a hell of a time getting them to go. In fact, there were homeless people going in the hotel's designated doggy area. She will be better off boarding that dog. Plus it's weird to burden the rest of you with the costs of a pet-friendly room. It's not a service dog. Stand your ground, she is being unreasonable. Your little sister cannot stay in a pet-friendly room due to allergies. The end. If she must bring her dog, she won't be staying in the shared room, which will need to be pet-free. This is not negotiable, and everyone involved needs to stop pretending it is. Since the regs changed in 2021, most airlines will no longer accept ESAs in the cabin. They are only required to accept service dogs, a very different thing. Unless she can demonstrate that her dog has received specialized training as a psychiatric service dog, meaning actual training both in emotional support techniques and in public behavior, the likelihood is that the poor dog will have to fly in the cargo hold, placing its life at risk. Not the arsehole. Bridesmaid is a crappy dog owner. Nata. She needs to book her own room at her cost. You are not disregarding her needs, you are thinking of all the other bridesmaids' needs. Majority rules. Send her the contact info for dog boarding services in LV. She can pick one and board her dog when she gets to Las Vegas. That way she gets to fly with her dog.